This is the Dover Download Podcast. My name is Christopher Parker, and for the past 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working with, learning from, and talking to a variety of volunteer, staff, and community members. This podcast explores conversations, activities, and a variety of policies and programs which exist here in Dover to improve the community in one way or another. Following up on last week's episode of the Dover Download Podcast, we're going to continue looking at the municipal budget and inviting the various departments and service areas to come in and talk about the budget presentation they've made and what they use to develop their budget. The first meeting was the school department, which we will have a separate episode about that. Today, we're going to focus on the executive department, finance department, planning department, and welfare department. First up, after the city manager gave an overview of impacts that affect all areas of the budget on the city side, we have the executive department. The executive department portion of the budget covers expenses related to the city council, city manager's office, human resources, media services, legal, and office of business development. Most of these areas are personnel driven. There aren't a lot of capital costs. There's not a lot of purchases that are made. It truly is the people that are implementing our master plan, our strategic plans, and our council goals. In that regard, there's been some tweaking in the budget as personnel costs have gone up, but otherwise there's not a lot to point to here for increase or decrease. From there, the budget presentation turned to the finance department, and joining us now is Dan Lynch, our finance director. Dan, how are you?
Good. Good morning, Chris.
So when you put together the finance budget, what areas are you looking at to develop that budget?
First, I seek input from the different division supervisors within finance, so purchasing, accounting, the city clerk, tax collector's office, assessing. And then from those inputs, if there's something that I think merits a change in the budget one year to the next, propose those to the city manager, whether in his review of the priority-based aspects of the budget, those items make it through to his proposed budget, then those become items that discussed and presented specifically to city council during finances presentation before council. Also, in addition to that, we focus on how our functions support and help implement the master plan, the city's strategic plan, as well as the finance department's strategic plan, and certainly city council goals that they adopted for the next 2 years.
Are there any major call-outs in the finance budget? Are there any major purchases? I know last year there were some voting elements in the clerk's budget. Are there anything like that jump out?
Not for fiscal year 2027. The last couple of years, as you said, for fiscal year 26, it was implementing new voting machines, which was done for back in the fall. This year, being fiscal year 26 that we're operating in, and in the prior year, that's been implementing the new computer-aided mass appraisal system. Fiscal year 27 is going to be the actual first year we utilize that in terms of reporting values. So those have been significant items over the last couple of years for finance. We don't have any items like that for fiscal year 27. It's making sure we have the personnel to support the functions that provide the services to our customers throughout the city and through the other city departments.
Great. As we move on to planning and community development, Donna Benton, our director of planning and community development, is here to join us. Donna, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good. How do you put together a budget proposal to the manager?
I would typically look at our expenditures and our revenues over the past year and how they are trending. I also take a peek at our master plan and see if there's any action items to implement that I would need extra funding for. Also looking at the strategic plan and council goals to account for those as well. I do reach out to staff to see if there's anything that I'm not thinking of or any additional projects that they would like noted, and then go through and kind of figure out what adjustments need to be made.
So in fiscal 26, there was the Transportation Master Plan, which is one of the more costly chapters of the master plan. Is that continuing, or is that an area that's changed?
So the work is continuing, but we were able to reduce the budget request from $100,000 for the transportation to, I think, $40,000 for the stewardship chapter, which is up next.
Much different scope of work.
Yes.
Are there any areas in your budget proposal that jump out that the listener should pay attention to?
I would say the biggest cost difference that I requested was an additional building inspector, just based off of the development we're seeing and how many inspections are needed. And my hope was to have 2 building inspectors. One could be focused on more residential and one could be focused on non-residential uses. It's a tight budget year, so that was unfortunately cut. But that was one of the major kind of additions that I had asked for this year.
And this is the second year that inspection services has been back in the planning department budget?
Yes, correct.
Anything else you want to make sure the listener knows? And certainly they can go back and watch your presentation, but anything else?
I would just say we're happy to answer any questions if anyone is reviewing the budget and wants to know more about the planning department.
Thanks for coming in. And next we're going to pivot over to Dave Balian to talk about public welfare. Dave, as we wind down this episode, what can you tell us about the public welfare budget?
Well, I can tell you that we generally look at like 5 areas or 5 points when we consider what we're going to present. The first thing we look at is obviously our current spending. You know, where are the various categories of emergency assistance that Dover Welfare provides for? You know, how much money is coming out of each of those lines. And then the second thing, I kind of like to look back in the historical spending and see, like, well, is that normal? You know, have we been doing that kind of money? Traditionally, say, I tend to look back about 10 years just to kind of get a feel for it. You know, spending going up, if it's going up in a certain area where, you know, just get a feel. And then I like to consider the current economic market factors that are driving things, like the cost of rent or heat and food, other what we call basic necessities that Dover Welfare covers. And I kind of consider the trends I'm observing, you know, again, are they going up? You know, like how fast, you know, how quickly are costs increasing for clients? And then we kind of look around and see, well, what's going on? What's the strength of our current employment market? What type of employment's available out there in the area, you know, for our clients? And then finally, we look at like political trends, propose legislation both at state and federal level to see if there's going to be cost shifting to local government, which then might cause increased expenditures for local welfare. Our goals don't change year to year, basically. I mean, because of the nature of what we do, they're pretty much the same every year. We try to provide high quality assistance to our clients in accordance to the law, which is RSA 165, and the guidelines that we have. We try to do it in a respectful manner while basically doing what we can to stabilize situations for these people, because ideally we would like them to become self-sufficient. That's really the goal. We're meant to be emergency, not ongoing. So, you know, we try to provide that way, or the tools or the referrals to other agencies and programs that can do that for them. And then, frankly, because our money comes out of the general fund, we don't get money from anywhere else. We need to keep aware of the fiscal responsibility to the Dover taxpayer, you know, who's ultimately funding us, you know. And we're constantly trying to get better. I mean, you know, I call it continuous improvement.
Yeah.
You know, what can we learn? The nature of our business is constantly changing. You know, programs change. The people that are running the programs change, and financing to those programs change. Is there other training out there, you know, that we can learn new things? I mean, we're a small department. There's just 3 of us there. And so, you know, we have to be good at what we do. We can't spread it around too much. And we're constantly looking at ways, how can we leverage our other service providers in the neighborhood or in the area or in the state? You know, how can we cooperate more with them? How can we find out more about them and what they do, and how can we share resources together? Because we really need to tap into that for the sake of our clients. I mean, we just don't have the ability to do a lot of the things that they need, but we really do have the ability to refer to other people who do. And that is how you stabilize situations, I think. We're not really having any changes in our staff. No major changes in the process of things we do.
Both of which are good things.
Those are good things.
You've got great experienced staff and you have a good process for getting people the assistance and the care they need.
I have to say I'm grateful for the people that I work with. They are extremely talented and knowledgeable, and we're very different, which is I find is a positive because we are able to balance each other out and really provide well-rounded service because of it. We all know our jobs really well, and we're constantly adapting what we do to improve it. Reviewing our procedures, reviewing processes, and even documents and everything else, so that we can become more efficient, make it easier on the client. Because it's a complicated and difficult time for them when they come in.
Well, I appreciate you walking people through. And there's any last items you want to make sure people know if there's something that jumps out?
Well, really, just I don't think people realize a lot of times that local welfare is one of those things that's mandated by the state.
Yep.
Every municipality in New Hampshire has to have a form of local welfare, but the money that funds it comes from general funds. It's from those municipalities' general budget. It's not reimbursed by the state. We don't get grants or anything else. And that Dover Welfare hasn't increased its budget request this year or in a number of years, even though the costs have gone up for things. As everyone knows, your food and rent and electricity and fuel and everything that we call basic needs has risen. And we've done it basically by, it sounds almost counterintuitive, but we spend more time. We spend more time doing better case management, spend more time, as I said, working with other agencies, helping clients access those other resources and services. So
Appreciate you coming in, Dave, and sharing your story.
Well, thank you.
For the listener, you can find all of the presentation we talked about today on the City of Dover website under the Budget Revealed section. Thanks for listening, and we encourage you to stay engaged with the budget as it progresses over the next month. Dover has a wealth of history in its over 400 years of existence. Coming up, Mike Gillis is going to share some of that history with us.
On March 1st, 1896, the city of Dover experienced one of the worst natural disasters in its history. A heavy rainstorm caused the Cocheco River to rise rapidly, resulting in a massive flood that destroyed 5 city bridges, damaged numerous businesses, and effectively ended the profitable shipping industry in the area. The storm lasted for 10 hours and caused the river to rise between 6 and 10 feet. The flood was so intense that it sent 2 buildings on the Central Avenue Bridge into the river, impacting about a dozen businesses and making many roadways impassable. The buildings, which were part of the Bracewell block, were washed over the lower falls under the Central Avenue Bridge. The flood caused over $300,000 in damages, but miraculously, no lives were lost. The disaster was dubbed Dover's Black Day by the Dover Enquirer, an apt name that is still used today. The flood had a significant impact on the commerce and shipping industry of Dover. The debris, sand, and silt from the flood filled in the river bottom, making it nearly impossible for large schooners and other vessels to reach the port of Dover. Debris from the flood was found as far away as Rye and Portsmouth, including lumber, shoes, and a 700-pound rock discovered in Newcastle, believed to have been a part of the Bracewell block. In addition to the destruction of the Central Avenue Bridge, 4 other bridges were destroyed: the Whittier Falls Bridge, the Lower Washington Street Bridge, Watson's Bridge, and the City Farm Bridge. The 4th Street Bridge, considered the weakest, withstood the pressure. The severity of the storm was felt throughout the region, causing numerous floods. Road washouts were recorded in several areas, including a 50-foot portion of Portland Street and 40 feet of railroad track on the Boston and Maine line. As ice floes pounded against the B&M Railroad Bridge, engineers loaded it down with freight cars in a desperate attempt to save the bridge, which was eventually saved. When the Central Avenue Bridge went early in the evening, destroying the Union Street Railroad rails, electric lines came crashing down with a helter-skelter of sparks. At that time, the river was so high it was level with First Street, where houses were flooded, and some desperate homeowners even anchored their buildings to nearby trees in fear of losing their property. The Converse and Hammond lumber business near Cocheco Street suffered heavy damage from a fire caused by the flood, and 9 carloads of lumber floated downstream. The flood was a crushing blow to local merchants, including the Cocheco Manufacturing Company and the Bellamy Mills from the Bellamy River overflowing. The flood wiped out about 60 years' worth of dredging efforts made to make the river more accessible and enhance shipping. From 1835 to 1894, about $168,000 was received from the federal government for dredging the Kachiko. Destruction from the flood was so great that people came from miles just to see for themselves the wrath and power of nature. Some roads became impassable, and electric wires were crashing down everywhere, plunging the city into darkness. The Kachiko mills did not run for at least 3 days, according to newspaper reports. The funding appropriated then by the city council to fix the bridges was about $35,000, according to the city's annual report for 1897. The destruction from the storm effectively ended Dover's shipping industry at the landing, Dover's once thriving waterfront. The deluge of silt and debris that settled downriver after Dover's Black Day would forever limit the size of ships that could reach Dover's landing. But with continued development of what was once Dover's bustling port, including the development of more than 30 acres of city-owned property on the waterfront, Dover's former landing is ready for its next chapter.
Thanks for listening to the Dover Download this week. If you like what you heard, subscribe through your favorite podcast aggregator. And if you have something you want to hear a topic on, let us know. Finally, this is just one of the many ways we share information about the city of Dover. You can subscribe to the Dover Downloads email newsletter every week or other newsletters that we have by going to the City of Dover homepage, www.dover.nh.gov. Have a great week.